You know, from the phone that's probably in your hand right now, to the food on your plate, our entire world runs on something that is both a total miracle and a real menace. We're talking about hydrocarbons. This is the story of that double-edged sword, the very engine that built our modern world and the huge, huge trade-offs that come right along with it. So let's just start with a really fundamental question. I want you to think about everything you've done today. The device you're watching this on, the lights in your room, maybe the car or bus that got you somewhere. Have you ever really stopped to think about what's powering all of it?
For well over a century, the answer has overwhelmingly been hydrocarbons, oil and natural gas. And this slide, well, it gives you a sense of the incredible scale we're talking about. What you're seeing here isn't the whole world, that's the oil and gas infrastructure of just one country, Saudi Arabia. It's this vast, sprawling web of pipelines and plants, and it really shows you just how deeply this stuff is woven into the very fabric of our world.
Okay, so that brings us to our first section. We need to understand exactly why we rely so heavily on these resources. And it's no exaggeration to say they are, quite literally, the engine of modern life.
It's almost impossible to overstate how important they are. I mean, we're not just talking about fuel for our cars. Hydrocarbons are the raw material for plastics, everything from your phone case to critical medical equipment. They're absolutely essential for the fertilizers that help feed billions of people. They power our homes, our factories, our entire digital lives. They are, without a doubt, the very foundation of the modern global economy.
And this is the result. The incredible wealth generated from hydrocarbons has fueled just staggering economic growth. It has literally built the modern cities that we all live in, it's created millions and millions of jobs, and it's lifted entire nations out of poverty. It's an incredibly powerful engine for prosperity.
Okay, so let's get into how this whole thing works. How do we actually find and get this black gold out of the ground? It's a fascinating process, really. It's the great hunt for hydrocarbons.
The entire hunt is built on one core scientific discipline, petroleum geology. Now think of these geologists as detectives, but for the Earth. They use their knowledge of rocks, of ancient history, to uncover clues about where oil and gas might be hiding, sometimes miles and miles beneath our feet.
You know, the modern oil era really kicked off with a single well back in 1859. From there, it just exploded. By the early 1900s, you had the birth of these industrial giants. The 1960s saw this huge shift in global power when OPEC was formed. And in just the last couple of decades, technology has leaped so far forward, allowing us to drill in some of the most remote and challenging places on the planet.
And just look at the difference. On the left, you've got Colonel Drake's well from 1859. It's this simple little wooden derrick. And on the right, a massive, sprawling, modern operation. This contrast just perfectly captures how this industry has scaled up in 160 years, from what was basically a backyard venture into an absolute global juggernaut.
Today, this whole complex process really boils down to three main steps. First, you've got seismic surveys to find where the stuff might be. Second, drilling operations to see if anything is actually down there. And third, if you hit the jackpot, you move to extraction and transport to get it to market.
That first step, the seismic survey, is basically an ultrasound for the planet. Seriously, they send these powerful sound waves deep into the ground. These waves then bounce off all the different rock layers. And by analyzing those echoes, geologists can create these incredibly detailed 3D maps of what's underground, highlighting the spots where oil and gas might be trapped.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, this immense industrial activity, it doesn't come for free. Now we have to face the other side of this double-edged sword, the environmental cost. This is the price we all pay for our reliance on hydrocarbons.
The environmental impacts are really significant, and they tend to fall into three major buckets. You've got pollution of our air and water, you have the direct destruction of habitats, and then there's the often overlooked problem of noise pollution.
So, air and water pollution, these are the ones we all think about. We've all seen those heartbreaking images of oil spills poisoning coastlines and marine life. But there's also the pollution that's less visible. Flaring, which is when they burn off excess gas, pumps potent greenhouse gases like CO2 and methane straight into our atmosphere, which just accelerates climate change.
Then you've got the physical footprint. I mean, to get to the oil and gas, you have to build things: roads, drilling pads, pipelines, all kinds of facilities. This means clearing huge swaths of land and seafloor, which destroys habitats, displaces wildlife, and basically slices up entire ecosystems into little, fragmented pieces. And finally, there's noise pollution. And this is a really serious problem, especially in our oceans. The constant, loud noise from the seismic surveys, the drilling, the machinery, it can travel for miles underwater. Now, for animals like whales and dolphins that completely depend on sound to navigate, find food, and talk to each other, this industrial racket can be disorienting, damaging, and sometimes even deadly.
So all of this, it leads us right to the heart of the matter. It leads us to one of the greatest challenges of our time, our energy dilemma.
And so we're left with this fundamental conflict, right? On one side, you have the engine of our modern world. It fuels our industries, it creates jobs, it's the raw material for countless things we use every single day. And on the other side, there's this heavy, heavy environmental cost, a warming planet, destroyed ecosystems, and polluted water.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. Really, this is one of the questions that's going to define the 21st century. How do we balance our world's undeniable, immense need for energy with the urgent, critical need to protect the only planet we have? Finding the answer to that, well, that's the challenge that we all face together.